Hello and welcome to this week's Charity Digital News webinar. If you joined us before, then it's great to have you back. And if it's your first webinar with us, then I hope it's the first of many. I'm delighted to welcome today Carolyn Nutkins from Parkinson's UK, who'll be talking about their fascinating digital journey. I think it's going to be a really exciting session, and it's going to be one we're going to do a bit differently because we're going to use a Q&A format. Before we get to that, I'd like to just say a few words on us. So Charity Digital News is part of Tech Trust. We're a charity that's focused on helping other charities to maximize their impact through their use of technology. And at the end of last year, we decided that we could increase our impact by running a free of charge webinar series as a way of helping charities to raise their digital skills. We normally try to run these on a Thursday at 1 o'clock to maximize accessibility. Though obviously this week we've moved to a Wednesday. We're covering a wide range of topics through the course of this program. So we've already done a number of sessions on cyber security, social media, and this month we're doing a lot of sessions on digital leadership. So next week we've actually got another one with Penny Power, who'll be looking at how to be a digital leader if you're not actually very technical. So I think that'll probably apply to a number of charities and should be a fascinating session. And then at the end of the month, on the 28th, we're welcoming back Lightful, who are going to be doing a social media best practice for charities. And in April, we're doing a Microsoft Skills Month. Other things we do at Tech Trust is we provide access to discounted and donated technology. We run a white labeled email service using the .mailer platform, which is a really great platform. And if you find MailChimp maybe a little hard to use, you'd really love that. And we run charity digital jobs. In terms of today's webinar, we're using Zoom. It's normally a very stable platform, so we're not anticipating any problems. But if there are any dropouts, just stay online and we should be with you as soon as possible. In terms of the session, as I said at the opening, Carolyn and I will be doing a bit of a Q&A. There will also be time at the end of the webinar for you to ask your own questions as well. You can actually log those as we go along by clicking the Q&A box at the bottom of the screen. So whenever you get a question, just feel free to type that in and then we'll pick them up at the end of the session. We'll also be making this webinar available as a recording on the Charity Digital News site for you to watch again if you want, or refer to your friends and colleagues. And that's generally available within a week. So that's all I guess I want to say by terms of sort of lead into today's session. I'd like to start off, Carolyn, by saying, well, first of all, hello and
Hi.
Welcome. Can you tell me a little bit about Parkinson's, your role and how you got involved in digital?
Sure. Okay, so I've been working at Parkinson's UK for 11.5 years. Initially joined the charity as an HR professional and had the great opportunity under our very ambitious and engaging and inspiring chief executive to grow my role along with the charity as we've grown over the last 11 years, moving from HR through to learning and development, volunteering and internal communications and facilities. But actually, as I said before, digital has become a massive part of who we are, how we operate, and although it's not in all of our job titles, it is a key part of our role to engage digital in the way that we work internally, in the way that we provide our support for people affected by Parkinson's. So that's kind of how we got to where we are today.
And why did Parkinson's decide to become more digital?
It's essentially, there are currently, we think, about 147,000 people affected by Parkinson's, and we have a current staff workforce of 500 approximately staff and around 4,000 volunteers. And the number of people affected by Parkinson's is expected to increase by about 20% over the next 5 years. So it's clear to us that we can't continue to offer and grow and expand and raise the funds enough to continue to grow the organisation when there are digital opportunities out there to provide our services and work more efficiently and effectively in different ways through digital and technology.
And how did you start on the digital journey?
So back in 2017, a conversation with the chief exec, sort of a realisation gradually over the sort of months leading up to that, that we needed to do more and understand what digital could do for us. We didn't have the internal expertise. So we did a lot of Googling and searching out there to see what kind of digital director roles and opportunities there were and how that would relate to what we were looking to do. We were really fortunate to recruit Julie Dodd back in 2017, and I'll just move that on to here. Since then, obviously, you can see that we've had a variety of activity that's kind of taken us through to where we are today. We didn't know at that point what our kind of digital maturity levels were, and have done a lot of work to understand the kind of digital maturity within the organisation and develop our programs around that.
So you've got 500 staff, around 4,000 volunteers. That's obviously a lot of people at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And a lot of people who aren't very digital, don't have digital in their job title, maybe don't come from a technical background. How did you actually set about engaging them more? And how did you find that your program impacted them?
Sure. So, I mean, engagement's a massive thing here. First of all, we needed to understand what we mean by digital. As it says on the slide, we didn't have a digital strategy. We don't have a digital strategy, but we had a vision that's basically maximising the potential of digital to improve the lives of people affected by Parkinson's. And that's not a deliberate attempt at being vague at people and sort of not knowing what we were trying to do, but it's actually trying to ensure that we all see digital as part of our general working lives and integrate it in that way. And the term digital, I think, if you're not a digital person, can be difficult to perhaps understand or to define. And for us, it really means how we work digitally to change our culture, our ways of working, what tools, apps, devices can be in place to support people with Parkinson's, but also internally how we can do our work more efficiently.
What's been the outcome of your program?
Sure. So, I mean, we've put a lot of work into engagement and starting now to build a learning and development platform for staff to support the transition. You can just move the slides on to some of that. I mean, I think here, if you the slide that's currently showing, there are a lot of reasons why, and it's perhaps the answer to your last question, why we need to change and become more digitally focused. Some of those examples there, behaviours and expectations change from supporters and people who are donating us money. We're expected to have online ability to donate. Maybe the kind of handheld devices where people can donate with a card rather than giving cash. So there's all sorts of reasons why we could miss out if we don't change the ways of working. There's legislation change around GDPR that we need to be compliant with, and that involves technology as well. And I think just generally to make our resources go further, the point there is that we can't continue to offer an increased and scalable level of service to people with Parkinson's on the same kind of staff resources that we've got, and digital provides a great opportunity for information support to be delivered through other means. And on the slide here, you can see how digital can have impact for us. We've kind of defined it in 4 areas. So understanding Parkinson's better. So that's through research, through data, reaching more people affected. We have a workforce of about 120 local advisors across the UK who do a variety of telephone and face-to-face visits with their clients. Actually, through digital, we're finding now that some of those staff can have Skype calls to advise clients and don't need to travel. So it saves time and resource there for the visits that are more needed, perhaps in different areas. We talk about improving quality of life, and that's where our work on devices and apps, for example, can help people understand their condition better and manage the condition themselves. And then the last section there actually about making us more effective, which is essentially what we're doing in terms of the internal ways of working.
And I understand you did quite a lot of work both at the outset of your program to understand where you were in digital maturity terms, and then you've actually been back at various points along the process to revisit that. Could you explain a little bit more about digital maturity models and how you've actually progressed over the time?
Sure. So on the slide that you can see now, you won't be able to read all the detail. It's just an indicative example, but essentially this gives us the opportunity to rank where we believe through self-assessment processes internally in terms of digital and data maturity. And just flicking there, when we first did the first audit of that back in 2017, we came out at 2.5 on a 0 to 5 scale, which essentially put us in a kind of a basic digital maturity category. We reassessed ourselves back in 2018 and moved up a level to 3.2, so kind of came into the developing digital maturity scale, you know, as a result of the leadership and the kind of things we put in place to move along. We've just actually done the survey again, and as we're speaking now, numbers are being kind of assessed and analysed to see if we've moved up any further. But the idea here is there, and we talk internally about the kind of Blockbuster's Netflix example on this, where Blockbusters disappeared because that basically Netflix took over. Blockbusters didn't want to go into sort of digital videos, and that's where Netflix or the market moved on. And actually, as a charity, we need to continue to thrive, and you know, I think the assumption is that that model will continue to need to stay at a 5 and continue, and things will change and as to how we deliver that.
And when we were chatting before this session, you talked me through your modern workforce plan. Could you explain more to our audience about what that is and how that incorporates digital?
Sure. So you can see here the kind of journey that we're on, and the modern workforce plan comes in more recently in 2018. And what we realised is that the whole kind of transformation of the organisation was about digital at the heart of it, but also lots of other things that kind of come into that category around ways of working, how we manage projects, how we the culture of the organisation. So we label it the Modern Workforce Project, of which digital is a key part. If I just move on to the workforce plan, so essentially that's about increasing organisational skills and confidence in digital and data, looking at the cultural change that we need to adopt to change ways of working behaviours. And that's not just about bringing in new tools and technology, but it's actually about engaging people in that and helping people to see the benefit of that change, and that includes the right sort of tools and frameworks to support the workforce. So we split the modern workforce program into 4 key areas. We have engagement and culture change, which was your question actually about bringing people on board with that, our staff and our volunteers, and that's going to be an ongoing journey. We then have the skills and confidence, so that's essentially our learning and development platform and how we can provide support at the different levels of competency that people need to deliver their role. Collaboration, a project there around tools and ways of working to help us work more efficiently, and bearing in mind, as I said at the beginning, we're kind of a dispersed workforce, so we've got 500 staff, but actually only sort of 220 of those staff will work from one location, the rest are all home based. So collaboration is there's huge opportunity there with digital actually to collaborate and work in different ways. And then we talk about our people processes, so an example there would include our new HR database that we've introduced with self-service and all the facilities that offers us. So there's a range of programs within those streams of activity, all that kind of contribute to being a modern, effective workforce.
And I know that one of the other key concepts that you've used to drive the significant progress you've made has been around this concept of the dream team that actually makes digital happen. Could you explain what that is and how you built that?
So yeah, here's a very non-digital example of our office wall at the moment, which is basically created by the dream team, and that just gives you an example of our work in progress under those different streams. I think the point here is that actually, our digital leaders in the organisation, I think externally say that actually to make this really successful and a program that's integrated into how people work, it's actually the people aspects of the organisation that will make that happen. So you can see on this slide actually that the dream team, the kind of modern workforce team, is led by people within the people directorate, so internal communications, human resources, volunteering, with digital and other project management and IT support helping us to really integrate that into ways of working. So it's not seen as technical projects, it's not seen as an IT thing, it's actually about how we work together, how we collaborate more effectively. And that actually has to be owned within the business areas themselves rather than be delivered to by technical or IT people.
And if you had to pick out maybe one thing that's most important to be a successful digital leader, what would you say that was?
Here you go. Well, there's 10 examples here, and some of them we picked up on already. So the whole kind of decentralizing of digital, moving digital out of a centralized team and actually embedding those skills and that experience within the business and within the areas that the service is being delivered is really important. And we've been doing that now for the last sort of 18 months and can see the benefits of that. Harness what's happening anyway. That's a really good one. So we knew that there's a certain group of staff, job family within the organisation that perhaps by their own admission and through questionnaires were saying, actually, we're not good at digital, we're not very technical, we don't understand it, we don't have the confidence. And actually we ran a programme towards the end of last year, face to face with this group of staff, where actually they knew what they were doing more than they thought, and that harnessed what's happening anyway, that a real realisation that we're doing digital already, and this is just about continuing and growing that. So that was a really interesting lesson, actually something that we hadn't expected to see. And the turnaround with that group of people after those sessions, where they actually, you know, went out smiling thinking, actually, I know more than I thought I did, or I can do more with digital than I thought. The plain English communications through our kind of communications and engagement team, really important that they are supporting how we get the messages across and to engage people and to support the transition. Yeah, fix broken tech's a good one, because we all have Skype and whatever issues, Zoom issues, and that's one way to put people off. So you know, you can promote and do all the good communications, but if the technology doesn't work and lets people down, then it does lead to lack of confidence. And I think we've done a lot of work and put a lot of work through our kind of IT and infrastructures support services to make sure that we improve on that area too.
Excellent. I think in a second I'd like to open up for questions from the audience as well. I'm sure there's going to be a lot, so do feel free to go ahead and start logging them now. I guess from my perception, I think it's been really awesome, the progress you've made as an organisation, and actually the slides you put up now kind of, I guess, summarises it. So could you just talk this through and say where have you got to and what next, really?
Yeah, sure. So some of that stuff we've achieved, and there's a lot of work in progress there. The biggest work in progress at the moment is we're transitioning away from Microsoft into G Suite. That's a current project which will be going live in April. And that's involved staff across the kind of people directorate and wider in terms of IT and other digital support within the organisation. And it's a massive change, a whole operating system being moved from one to another. We over the last 18 months have moved on to Cascade Hr Database, which in itself it's a database, but actually it's revolutionised the way that we're able to engage with staff, self-service, just the way that people operate more effectively and efficiently. And it's actually combined about 6 different other kind of databases and processes and electronic systems into one. And I can't, I'm probably not selling it the best I could here, but I can't overstate how much that's actually transitioned our ways of working internally. And then on the other side, you can see some great examples of our services that have been delivered. So launching local support and opportunities Lookup, for example, where people with Parkinson's across the UK can see what services and supports available in their area through an online platform. Just brilliant. Web chat launched, our work on health devices and apps has kind of really taken off. So there's a lot of work in progress and continuing to do that. And you can see the 2 awards in 2017 and 18, and I'm sure we'll be pitching for a few more in the next couple of years as well. So.
Excellent. So we've got a few questions in already. We've actually had 3 questions on maturity. So I guess trying to roll them into one. So what maturity measurement tool did you use, and is that an online tool that's available easily for people to use, or how do they set about using it?
Sure. So the tool was set up by somebody, a lady called Brani Milosevic from Digital Leadership, who created it. And I think we've done some, through the digital team internally, done some kind of adaptations that have suited us. But essentially, that's the work she's supported us through that. I'm sure it is available online, and we can try and find out how to make that available to anyone who's interested afterwards.
Yes, there's I think it's probably a separate tool, but there's also a charity digital maturity tool that I've seen. It's actually in the process of being updated at the moment, but the old version is still available, so we could publish subsequent to this the links to both of those. I think
that would be good.
I think they're both very useful tools. Let's move along. We've got a question on self-service. So how did you find the shift to self-service in terms of people getting used to this new way of working?
So I assume that's relating to Cascade in the HR database. Yeah, it's an interesting one because it could only get better from where we were, really. We had an HR database that was only accessed by the HR team, that wasn't great at reporting. We had a separate system. We have separate systems for recruitment and still do, but that's merging in. But for appraisals, for booking holiday, for logging flexi time hours, all of those things, we had sort of 6 or 7 different processes. So actually it wasn't difficult to sell into people. Actually, you've got one login, one place to go, you manage your own data. It's a really simple tool, and I don't work for Cascade, so I'm not trying to sell it to anyone, but it just integrated everything that we were doing. It's removed all the need for paper. And staff have just absolutely loved it. We've had fantastic feedback, and the way that the HR team integrated that and trained people and provided support really went a long way to engaging people in the system.
Okay, we've still got lots of questions coming in, which is brilliant because we've got plenty of time. A few people have posted questions on the to the chat function. It's a little bit easier for us to manage the flow of the questions if you press the Q&A button and then type your questions in there, please. There's a risk if they're on the chat function, we might miss them. So yeah, I might be jumping around a little bit here. But a bit of a challenge, actually, this question, saying a lot of this seems to be quite IT focused. Obviously, you're not an IT person yourself, you're from an HR background, but the question is, where is the end user in this?
Good question. Yep. So I mean, through research and our kind of analysis, we have user involvement teams. We have people out on the ground every day working with people with Parkinson's and feeding into the strategy, or not the digital strategy because there isn't one, but into kind of our approach to how we work. And so if you look at the achievement slide, for example, you're providing better support and services. So if I give a live example, when we were running the sessions with our Parkinson's local advisors, and they were saying to us, actually, they're now able to take their tablets or their laptops or their phones even into the homes of people affected by Parkinson's and support them with benefit applications or tribunal applications where their benefits have been declined. They're able to connect them. They're able to connect to them through Skype when perhaps they can't travel. They're able to just communicate and engage with people in different ways. So there's all sorts of operational improvements to how we deliver our work. And the services we're moving forward into the next strategy, we'll be looking much more closely at how we can make more personalised services for people affected, using digital as a key way of doing that. Good.
So when you were talking about your journey and how it started off, you talked about your visionary CEO. The question coming in through here is it possible to start bottom up if you're maybe an organisation where you haven't got the visionary CEO? You know, what do you do in that situation, do you think?
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, I think if our digital director was here, I think she'd say it was more of a challenge, because actually if your chief exec is engaged and inspired by it and really motivated, you know, the door's open, and it allows, you know, if we go back to our values of pioneering, you know, if you've got a pioneering chief exec, it makes life much easier, doesn't it, to be able to engage in a program like this. I would say it takes a lot of upward management, I'm guessing. I've not been in that situation, but I would say lots of upward management and lots of kind of selling in the impact actually of what digital can do by looking for examples of how whatever organisation this person who's asked the question comes from, but what is it you're trying to deliver, and try and find evidence and impact of how digital can make that transition, because seeing is believing, isn't it? And you can see that difference.
And I guess part of the journey, you need to get people more knowledgeable, more savvy about technology.
Yeah.
Do you have any practical recommendations in terms of, a website people can go to, or tools, things that can help to build that kind of that base level digital skills in the broader workforce and the volunteer side as well, which is obviously really important to you?
Yeah, in terms of how we support learning and development around that, I mean, Skype's been brilliant with a dispersed workforce. We can run training sessions on Skype. We do a lot of recording of videos, for example, that people can watch through our intranet. We're still building the development platform now. I think there's also something, we're moving to G Suite, and a lot of these systems offer their own kind of online training support built into the programs or as part of the rollout of those.
So question, and I guess this relates to the fact that you're using a number of different digital tools, but have you seen the levels of email drop as a result, or is it still the dominant communication?
Yeah, that's unfortunately emails. Yeah, you still get hundreds every day, and it's and that's a really important thing actually. So we're rolling out G Suite now. We're not just going to roll out the tools and say here's G Suite. It's the equivalent of SharePoint of Microsoft, and use it in the way that you did. We're actually working now to bring in key messages for staff and volunteers to say actually use it in this way, because actually this will give you more. And we hadn't actually done that probably as much and given it as much thought before. So that's a lesson we've learned, and really want to bring that in at the beginning of the new system coming in, to say we'd like you to work in this way, we expect you to work in this way, and provide guidance on how to do that. Controlling things like who can access all staff emails. We've done bits and pieces like that before, but people find ways around it. And yeah, there are ways of, do you have an email free Friday? Do you look at communicating other ways? Intranets can be good for that, and bringing organisational comms through in different ways other than email. But it is a culture thing, and it's a big change to make.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess kind of building on that and the decision to move to G Suite, because you'd obviously moved prior to that to Office 365, which I'm guessing wasn't a trivial transition at all. What was the reason for the decision to move to G Suite, and are you planning to move off Skype as a result, or are you going to stick with that?
Yeah, so the benefits of G Suite will be improved ways of working, collaboration, more efficiencies in that sense. Skype, I think, Google, the G Suite package has Hangouts, which I've used as part of our project team meetings as we're implementing it. So it's not widely used within the organisation, but it apparently will give us more reliability. And yeah, so far our experience of it has been really positive.
What would you say the biggest challenges of making such an organisation-wide change were?
In the broad digital transformation sense, I think it's engagement initially, and it's having the right skills. It's having the leadership, it's having the vision, it's then having the technology, which and the kind of infrastructure to support it. It's having the right people in post, the right leadership, but then the right people delivering the products, the services, the right attitudes in the staff to kind of embrace that change, and how the organisation can encourage and support people to do that. And that doesn't stop. That's, you're doing that all the time. It's continuous with every change that you make, but on a scale like this, and it starts from recruitment. It's the whole thing around our sort of employer value proposition, where this is how we work as an organisation. So for people coming in now, actually coming into that, will be expecting to work in that way. The harder transition, I guess, is people who've been there for longer, and actually different ways of working present different challenges, and how we support that transition for them on an individual level as well. Yeah. And again, that comes back to the previous answer around showing people the impact. Actually, there was a sense, if you're making us go digital, we won't get time with people with Parkinson's. Actually, you want us to do it all on the phone or on Skype or something, but actually that's not the case. Actually, by by doing it where you can, it frees up time for those people that really need that face-to-face, who perhaps aren't getting it at the moment because we're not working as efficiently as we could. So it's really about selling in the kind of benefits and the impact that it can have.
So we were talking earlier about some of the benefits and challenges of having a visionary CEO who's really interested in the whole broad digital transformation agenda. A question here which relates to what do you do if your IT director isn't very interested or invested in digital? So I guess this is when they're more focused on the traditional tech side of things rather than the broader digital opportunities.
Sure. Well, at a director level, we've not been in that position, fortunately. Julie's kind of worked across the two and has that vision and has led that change. We have had to make some changes in some areas, I think, around looking at the skills and experience that we need to make that transition. And sometimes that will mean organisational change, role changes, in order to resource the work that you're trying to do in a different way. And that's the kind of difficult and sad part of some of any change program, whether that's digital or anything else. It's about being bold enough to recognise what it is that's needed and in the right way make those changes and put those in place.
And for a charity which is already doing good work, making good progress in digital, what type of areas would you recommend they focus on to improve further?
That's interesting. That's probably slightly out of my kind of skill knowledge set, I think. Yeah, I mean, I guess if you're already delivering, we look at it at the two angles. There's the service delivery aspect and the beneficiaries aspect and what we can do to improve there. And then there's the internal kind of organisational efficiencies. And my guess is that will never stop. It's a program that will never change. New technology comes out all the time. Ways of working will change. Ways of doing the whatever it is your organisation does could be different. And it's about keeping ahead of that and looking for those opportunities and actually implementing things and being brave enough to do that as things come along.
And how involved has fundraising been, so the fundraising team as a whole, in your whole digital program?
Very much so. Our fundraising director are actually very pioneering and innovative, and actually they were one of the first teams to bring in the kind of a digital role specifically around fundraising back in sort of 2017, 2018. So yeah, they're always, whenever we try to do anything new in the organisation, they're always there saying, we'll be your guinea pigs, we'll do it, and they just really go for it. And that's the kind of determination I think that an organisation needs, is to embrace it and give it a go.
Good. Now we've had some interest in your innovation lab. Can you explain more about it and how it works?
Yeah, it sounds very good, doesn't it? And it is. It's so again, Julie, a couple of years ago, we're talking about the kind of creative space needed to actually move, and this is broader than digital. It's any kind of innovation, move projects and concepts on. And so it's quite a small space, but we knocked down some walls and we created glass that you can write on and all the technology inside to be able to Skype and to do what's needed. So essentially it's about taking ideas and concepts into there with the right people over, doing sprints, for example, on particular subjects to come out with a sort of sample product at the end of that, and ways of working. And our first actual experience of using it, and I was part of this group, although not all the way through, was actually to think about different ways of collaborating across the charity. And it was an on-off 3-week set of 3 sprints, I think it was in the end, to look at how we can collaborate better across the organisation using technology, but also in other ways as well. So it's a nice space to have, to get away from typical kind of meeting room style and give people a sense of being in a creative area that opens the mind.
Yeah. So I've got a question here which is relating directly to the services. So digital services that your service users can access. So I guess it'd be good to understand what they are today, and I guess also what your plans are for providing more digital services to those people as well.
Sure. So a couple of those examples are on the slide. So there's a forum and a chat area for people to web chat and to talk to other people affected by Parkinson's. in their area or wherever they might be. The local support and opportunities lookup is great for people to see what support is available in their local area. So whether it's a local group they're looking for, whether it's an exercise class, speech and language therapy, it could be, you know, a range of all of our services there. Moving forward, yeah, we're just entering into a new strategic planning process now for 2020 to 24, and that will reveal actually what other opportunities, as we start to go through that, will be available to us to deliver services better. There's always the one-to-one support and services, as I mentioned before, using through our staff or through our helpline, for example, to use digital and other ways of engaging people.
So I've got a question here which relates directly to how you actually build the skills. So have you had challenges bringing people with the right skills into the charity sector? And how have you actually set about attracting those people?
Yeah, there's obviously, I think salary is always the issue when you look at people crossing over sector from commercial or another one into charity. And that has, yeah, we have had to look at our kind of whole approach to remuneration around some of that. On the other hand, it's a really exciting role to come into. It's a really exciting sector to work in. And I think we also find, as much as the salary issue is always going to be there, there's actually a lot of things that are enticing people to join because of the opportunities, because of the impact that that role can have, whether that's delivering services in a different way, creating products, understanding data and digital in a different way for the organisation. So it's something that we just have to keep an eye on and look at how that affects our kind of overall recruitment strategy, really.
This is quite a specific question, and it might, I guess, it may or may not have the exact answer to it. But the question is, what online donation platform do you use, and what difference has digital made to your fundraising?
I don't know specifically the name of the online platform, so I wouldn't guess that, but I can get the information and we can post that out with all the other stuff at the end. The difference it makes, I guess, you know, it goes back to those threats and opportunities. If we don't have a strong digital platform, we lose opportunity, we lose money, we lose donors, we lose confidence in what we're doing. And you know, whether there's an appeal gone out and people respond as a result of appeal, the ability to have a strong online donation platform is just essential for any charity, really, to keep that that income coming through.
Okay, so we've still got a few more, and we've still got some time before we're scheduled to finish this. Did you come across any end user digital challenges, such as employees worrying about technology? And if so, how do you approach this steep learning curve?
Yeah, definitely, and that kind of goes back to the example with the time that we spent with some of our advisors last year to understand what their nervousness is and where their sort of confidence and competency levels are. Worst case scenario, I had a conversation with one member of staff who decided to leave because she has just a complete inbuilt fear of anything technical, which was quite interesting because her partner was actually an IT manager, and even he hadn't managed to convince her of the kind of benefits of moving in and working in different ways. But actually, when we did those sessions and that was this kind of surprise for me and for the team, really, was that actually we went in thinking that people were saying, we've got no confidence in this. And we did an opening round and we actually asked them to talk to us about what technology you use in your private life, because actually in personal lives, people were probably doing quite a lot already, whether that's banking, whether that's Skyping family abroad, whether it's using maps, whether it's, you know, using an Uber app or something like that. And the range of technology that people were using in their personal lives, it was like the light bulbs were switched on all in one go. So when you say, actually, you're already doing it, people think, oh, okay, I'm got more confidence in this than I thought I had. If you can overcome the confidence levels, you can put all the training and support around to help people. Then it's that first hurdle of the confidence, I think, makes all the difference. And then you provide the right level of support and training to engage people to know what tools they're using in work and how to use them.
I think that's a really great point you made there, really, about what people do in their personal lives. So I guess part of it's kind of like just giving them permission really to bring that skill and expertise that maybe sometimes they've parked at the door.
Exactly. And it was fantastic because actually at the end of that round, and we had sort of anything between 10 and 20 people in the room at each session, they were sharing kind of devices and apps and things that, that they'd never heard of, and were getting really excited by it. And if you can get people excited by it, then you're kind of halfway there.
So we've had a question saying there's obviously been lots of progress, but I guess in sort of more quantifiable, tangible terms, can you explain what the measurable benefits have been? Whether they've been increased income, increased donations, serving more service users, whatever. Can you just give us a sense of that?
Yeah, sure. So I mean, I think that at the moment there's lots of anecdotal kind of positive feedback, and I think through one of the points on here on the achievements is the shared information system, and that's a system that our 120 or so local advisors are now using over the last few months, which we didn't have before. So we've moved from kind of a paper-based approach and a manual approach to them using the system when they're with clients to record what they're doing, or the kind of situation that they're supporting people with. So actually that data will come through and enable us to create some kind of benchmark level of tangible outputs, and that we can then have KPIs against in future years and actually measure the difference. So in itself, a tangible output from that is that we now have a live real-time view of what support we're providing, which will help us shape the services and how we operate in the future, which we really didn't have before. And as I say, the KPIs will be launched with the new strategy and will help us kind of measure more closely the impact of digital on the work that we do.
Yep. And what are your next few key digital challenges going to be?
In the next couple of weeks, G Suite, definitely, and the kind of rollout of that, it's a huge project to be moving through, and the challenge is to continue to provide the support and training to staff to engage in that, and to feel that there's no kind of gap in the level of service that they're providing, or how they work on a day-to-day basis. I think there's always challenges of recruiting strong digital people, as we talked about before, coming from either within or outside of the sector. It's about keeping on top of what opportunities there are, and making sure that we are doing everything that we can through digital as much as possible, to complement but not to replace the kind of face-to-face support that we provide as well.
Good. Now, I think, although we've not ticked them off, I think we've actually covered all the other questions that are actually on the screen. So I'm not gonna drill into those anymore. I guess I'm just going to ask the audience if there are any kind of new questions on areas we haven't touched on already, before we kind of wrap up for today. All right, yeah, that's an interesting one. So how much of the IT estate has been reduced by the programme?
IT estate, was
Yes.
that? At the moment, we're kind of, it's changing. I suppose we're still in transition at the moment. So moving to cloud-based systems is the biggest probable change, I guess. We have invested in the infrastructure to do that. We've invested in data, two new sort of lead data roles to help us with that as well. So at the moment it's an investment, with the idea of over time investment then pays off and becomes more efficient in cost in terms of ways of working.
We obviously talked earlier about staff lacking confidence. Been a really interesting question here, about have there been any issues with service users not feeling confident with technology, and therefore like causing issues for you?
Not that I'm aware of, no, because actually, I mean, our services, we have a diverse way of providing our services. So we have telephone services which have been there, for years in the charity, and that option is still there for people to call in and talk to someone. They're then signposted from that service either out to someone locally who can go and visit, and depending on what the needs are of that person. So it's not been a barrier to, as far as I'm aware, to sort of service experience of the person, of the end user, of the person affected by Parkinson's. it's complemented it. I would say it's, you know, anecdotally again, but it's complemented it in the fact that we can do more for people with technology than we could before, and probably in quicker and better ways.
Yeah, so the important point there is you're not forcing your service users to engage through digital. You're providing it as an extra option, which enables you to support more people. But if they want to use the other more traditional channels, they can still do it.
Exactly, and that appeals to people then who are looking for whatever type of support they want in different ways.
Okay, so I think we've covered all of the questions now. I think we've had a really fascinating explanation of your digital journey at Parkinson's UK, and I've really loved the way that it's sat under the organisational development side of things. You know, it's not been kind of coming through the traditional IT channel, and that's really meant there's been a very strong focus on enabling the people to deliver what you need, and I can see how that's really enabled you to accelerate your progress hugely, and I'm sure you're going to continue to go from strength to strength. So I'd like to really thank you for your time today. Just so everybody knows, the recording will be made available online on the Charity Digital News website within the next week. There's also the opportunity, if you want to stay informed of future webinars and haven't already opted in, you can sign up at the URL techtrust.org/2019 webinar series. In terms of forthcoming webinars, if you're interested in digging even further into the subject area of digital leadership, I think Penny Power will be really interesting to you next week, next Thursday, the 21st. Penny actually comes from a technology background, but is also at the same time a self-confessed person who is easily overwhelmed by technology. She does a lot of work with small organizations today as well. And so she's going to be actually talking about how you can be a digital leader even when you feel overwhelmed by the technology that's coming at you. And then the 28th of March, we've got social media best practice in collaboration with Lightful. So I hope you'll all be able to join us for our future sessions as well. And at that point, I'd like to say thank you very much for your time, everybody, and goodbye.